Sweet 16. We are celebrating the 16th episode of Calls with Paul today. Sweet 16. That's a nice.
I remember being 16. Do you?
I do. I remember getting 16 roses for my 16th birthday.
Is that right? Well,
yeah.
They're probably from me.
No, they weren't.
No.
So the census results came out recently, and we got an update on the Austin census data. And once again, Austin was the number one fastest growing. Number one. This might be a dubious honor. The number one fastest growing metro area with populations over 1 million, followed by, I can't remember, some city in Florida. And so what that equated to was, and they were looking at the growth between 2017 and 2018, and it was something like 50, I'm sorry, my numbers aren't precise. It was approximately 52,000 people.
It's a lot of people.
Increase, and it came out to about 145 new people moving here a day. And that was just, of course, there are some people moving out every day as well. So it's, it's net, I think it was like 102 people that we're having to absorb as a city.
Yeah.
And that certainly presents a challenge. But it got us to thinking, because now that we're associated with the Compass brokerage, it's a national brokerage, we get a lot of referrals, which we are always very appreciative of. So if you ever need someone to help your clients as they consider a move to Austin, we've gotten more and more referrals nationally from California mostly, but also from other states where they're trying to help people make the move to Austin, whether it's because they love Austin, which a lot of people just think it's a cool place to live, or because they are part of one of those new growing businesses like Amazon or Apple or whatever.
Sometimes people want to slow down. They come here for that or business reasons or whatever.
Yeah. So for you, my questions for you today, and for you to share your knowledge with our audience, are really all about, if someone is moving to Austin for whatever reason, for work, for retirement, for play, whatever the reason, where do they start?
Excuse me. I still have some of that pizza in I ate right before I showed up here, so if I cough a little bit, that's why. But usually people start out with a phone call. I might get an email or something like that. We set up a time to talk. A lot of folks are looking at Austin among other areas.
Who are we competing with mostly?
We compete with Florida a little bit. There's I don't remember what they are. There's 6 other states that are no income states that seem to. No income tax states.
I thought it was 9.
I could be wrong, but it's a handful of
under 10.
Under 10, baby.
Yeah.
It's a handful of other locations. So a lot of times, if they're a solopreneur or a really small company, they may be coming and just looking for some discovery. So we start out with a phone call and we talk about what's possible and where they could live and try to kind of scope down their search and what life in Austin would be like. So we kind of start there.
I tend to also, when it's a referral from an agent, I like to send them. We have a lot of blog posts, and so we have one about relocating to Austin. We've got blog posts about the places that you think are the best investment appreciation opportunities if you're just looking for investment, which we've had some of those. We've got lots of blog posts about buying a home in Texas and in Austin specifically, and what that process is like. So it's a good way to kind of dive in and get an education early on if you're a reader.
If you're a reader. Or a talker and a reader.
Yeah. Can you scoot more towards me?
Yeah. It's just better.
I feel like I'm hogging the camera.
Oh, no, but you're beautiful.
Yeah. Okay, so someone talks to you, they come in. Are they coming in to buy, or are they usually just coming in to look and get a feel for the town?
Everybody's a little bit different. So everybody comes with their own course. Some people come in and they want to buy and they want to do it right away. We had one not long ago who I think I showed 25 homes. The guys. Yeah. So sometimes people come in with the intent of let's get this done, let's move on, and we need to do a real good job to throw
it depends a little bit on their circumstance. Like they had been living apart for a while. One of them had already relocated here for work. They had young children, and they didn't want to be separated in 2 different states. So they were very motivated to find a home that worked for their family very quickly.
Yeah, they wanted to get it done, and they did. And I think we did a great job. And then we have another person coming in. You don't know this yet, but we have another person coming in next week who's also a referral. And she's coming for an educational tour.
Cool. So sometimes people come to buy, and sometimes they come for educational tours. What's an educational tour?
It's kind of like the buying tour. So we start out with a phone call, just like everything else, and we try to scope down the range of possible neighborhoods and areas. You know, what's important to you, schools or work, or what do you like to do for fun? What's your price range? All that stuff. So we try to set up some search parameters, and then when you come in, we try to go out and show 12 homes in 3 hours, and we call that speed dating for homes.
So were you selecting different neighborhoods and giving them a cross section of Austin? Are you narrowing in specific neighborhoods based on what they've told you? Like, what are you doing?
Everybody's different, right? Like, so depending on how that phone call goes, sometimes we have people who their search is so broad that we have to hit different neighborhoods to try and scope that down and eliminate neighborhoods. For this lady that's coming in next week, we didn't have to do that. She's pretty, like, her search ended up being really tight because she wants great schools, and she wants Round Rock, and she wants Austin. So we're
Round Rock and Austin are different cities.
Well, Round Rock Independent School District, but Austin, which really puts you in a really small
northwestern section.
Yeah, like, so the Spicewood Balcones area, a little bit of Great Hills, and kind of up there.
Cool.
So hers will be tighter.
So 12 homes in 3 hours is what you call speed dating for homes.
That's right.
There's no time to mess around.
No, there's not. And it's fun, and it turns into a fun game.
So what's your tasking? Like, if you're coming in and they're doing this tour, what are you tasking the buyers with in that 3 hour period? What's their job?
Well, they're clients. We don't really task them with anything, but we do coach them to keep in mind just 3 homes. And that sounds real easy, to just keep in mind 3 homes until you have 3 that you love. Sometimes people go through the whole process and they don't have any that they love. But
well, I think you told me the job is to eliminate.
Right. So
why does this home not work? Think about what's wrong with this home.
Right.
And if you have a home that doesn't have anything wrong with it, well, then that's then
you eliminate. Well, yeah, you keep those. But like, the idea is to delete homes that don't work and keep homes that could, and to move very quickly. So you walk in and you get a general feel for the house. Does this work for us? Is this a potential? Like the lady that I'm working with this week, lady and husband that I'm working with this week, she said something real interesting to me I hadn't heard before, but I imagine everybody goes through. She said, I felt like initially I had to take everything in about the home before, as I saw each one. After talking to her a little bit, she realized she didn't have to do that she can just walk in and see if it works and if she likes it. And that's kind of the point. And if there's no sense in standing around in a home if it's not a possibility, or if it won't work for you.
And then you have a fun game you play in the car.
I do. So people only should keep 3 unless you're going to buy more than 1. And when you fill up with those 3, we play keep or crumple. So if you don't like the house, you get to crumple it up and throw it in the back. Although people have their variations of crumple. Some people like to fold. I'm
a folder. I take my paper, and not horizontally, but vertically, I've eliminated this home.
Is that how you do it?
This home has been eliminated.
We have folders, and we actually had a new one I don't think I've told you about.
They have a ripper.
We have a tearing.
All the way in half?
This one couple, they had tearing, and then they had honorable folds.
What's an honorable fold? Like an
honorable
mention?
Like homes that she didn't feel like she could eliminate on her own, that she needed more counseling with. She really didn't think it would work, but couldn't really toss it.
So that's a medium pile?
It was an honorable fold.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And crumpling goes kind of like this.
There you go, babe.
And then you throw it in the back seat.
Probably hitting a spouse on the way.
At whoever's in the back.
Oh, we have a good time.
But these are my notes, so now I need these back.
I was wondering those. That was very
brave. It's brave.
Very unusual for you to crumple
like that. I'm not a crumpler. I'm a folder.
It'd be wild here out on the live stage.
Yeah, I'm a folder. So keep a crumple, and then we also have, if we've got people coming in from out of state who are only here for a very narrow window of time, we'll also create a tour book for them that's a little bit nicer, something that they can take notes in and that they can go back on the airplane with and look at with each other and kind of figure out and remind themselves of, it usually includes multiple different photos and descriptions of the properties and stuff like that. So keep or crumple is a fun card game, but if you're analysis requires more in-depth study. You also
Well,
can get your tour guide.
and that we have time. I mean, it takes a little bit of time. Like if you're
Sure.
if you're staying here for 4 or 5 days, I can't make a book every time.
So no, sure. I mean, but these are like I'm in for the weekend and I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about how long the process takes.
Well, everybody's different. So there's 2 real phases. There's the educational phase where people start figuring out what they want. And they come to it.
How long does it take for people to kind of get an idea of what they're looking for?
Everybody's different. Like when people come in from out of town and they're super focused, we can usually do it in a weekend, and they have enough homes to look at.
Debbie Works, by the way, really likes the jobs. Your job is to eliminate and get it down to just 3 months.
Yeah, it is. Delete these things. Anyway, we can.
So the educational tour part, like how long does it take for people to get a sense of the neighborhoods and which area they're liking the homes in?
It depends on the person.
Even on the educational piece, you don't have like an average?
All of it really, it can really vary. Like it might take somebody 2 weeks to figure it out, and then they're ready to buy. We have other people who come in and within a day they're like, okay, I got it, and let's jam. So we take our clients where they're at, but most people are pretty fast with it, and it seems daunting to try and narrow the scope for a whole city. But when you add in price range and are schools important to you and all that kind of stuff, it gets pretty small pretty fast.
Well, I would imagine that the educational piece would be faster, but then actually narrowing it down and choosing which home. Like for example, in Northwest Hills right now, we have several buyers that really want to be in this neighborhood, but inventory is so low that like they're ready to pull the trigger, but they can't find anything that is fitting their search criteria.
That's right.
So I would think that the educational piece can be shorter, but that the actual, depending on what the inventory looks like.
Depends on what they're looking for, right? So
and the person.
If you're looking for a home that's a little bit of a unicorn or something really nice, you may have to be patient. But if you're looking for a home that comes up pretty frequently, then maybe not.
I'm going to have to draw a picture of a unicorn home. That'll be fun.
Lyndon will really like that. Yeah.
I came back from a little short trip with a girlfriend, and when I go to the beach, I usually do some drawing, and so my head is in my creative zone, and I think look forward to some kind of graphic with the unicorn home coming soon.
Maybe it's a front door with a.
Yeah, we'll see. I digress.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay.
Good for you.
What if you find something that you like early on in the process?
Well, that happens. I don't know. And over the last few years, we've had I call them one and dones, where people, the first home that they see, they like, they love it, they say they want to write it up right away. And of course, that sounds good.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. But
it sounds great. But the thing is, we want to make sure that they really are making the best choice. So after you make that initial purchase, we play another game called Let's Beat That Deal. And so we keep running around looking at homes and verifying that that's really the best deal.
Cool. Yeah. So you keep kind of doing your due diligence and showing them and educating them and making sure they're comfortable with the decision that they've made.
That's right. I don't just get a day off.
Well, you've had some out of the country buyers, right? Yeah. Like they have, you're working with some right now. They're harder for them to keep popping back and forth and stuff.
Yeah, they really need to nail it while they're here.
But at the same time, I know it's important to you not to push anybody into a decision, and make sure that they take whatever time is needed and the care that's needed to come up with a decision that's right for them.
It's a balancing act, and so what we ultimately do is show plenty of homes, and we coach on all of them.
Now, if someone's buying remotely, there's a lot of processes and pieces in the buying puzzle. You've got the inspection that happens, where the inspector's going to come through and give you an idea of an inspection of the house. How are the electrical systems? Why are you laughing? Because I'm talking about inspections.
I'm just looking at you on the screen, and you're just really pretty, and it makes me happy to call you my wife.
Oh.
Is that okay?
Yeah, I'm having a little moment here now. That was really sweet, but now I've totally lost what I was saying.
That's okay. It's recorded, and you can take your time. People are patient.
Tell people what an inspection is, since I'm old.
So you don't have to be here for like in the home buying process. When you're buying it from a distance, you really only have to be here for the picking out and for the getting to know homes. And a lot of times people will take their top 3 choices, get on the airplane, and head home. We start negotiating from a distance, while you're on the plane or once you land. And of course, the inspection, you don't have to be there. A lot of people feel like they need to be, but you really don't. People do this all the time.
Well, and the cool thing is, like, I know with Justin, for example, some of our inspectors, they do a lot of videotaping.
Yeah.
And they do a lot of photographs. So even if you're not here, I mean, sitting there while someone's crawling under the house, looking at the pipes, and they're up in the attic looking at the HVAC system, is kind of a waste of, I mean, like, you can be looking at the house and figuring out where you want to put your furniture, and a lot of times that's a good chance for people to really start to get familiar with the house.
It's good chill time,
but it's a waste of your time too. And so with today's tech, there's so many other things that they can send you, so that even if you can't be physically present, you get the benefit of seeing what they saw through the lens of the photos or the videos.
Yeah, you don't really have to be there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good. Like, if you're here in town, I want you to go so you can soak up, and you have the time. I want you to go and soak up the vibe. Like, that's what I tell people. Like, go and be there and have some board time in your house, and it'll feel different to you. Invite your friends over. You didn't know I'd tell people that, did you?
No, I was just reminiscing about our first house on a busy street.
All the board time we had there,
where we brought alcohol. It sat on the floor in what was going to be our bedroom. And
well, I didn't want
listen to the traffic to see if the traffic was going to bother us.
That's right. And you had plenty of Baileys, and it didn't bother you.
It didn't bother me a bit. Okay, so what about closing?
Don't tell anybody about that.
What about closing? Do we need to, if I'm an out-of-state or out-of-country buyer, do I need to be at closing?
No, you don't. Well, if you're out of country, potentially, unless you want to make a reservation at the embassy. The thing about being out of country is that all the documents generally need to be signed by an American recognized notary. And a lot of times, like in Paris and other locations, the only place that you have that is at the embassy.
Well, let's talk about the final walkthrough.
Yeah.
Because usually before closing, you're going to have a final walkthrough of the home, and that's an important time for you to kind of get to see it, make sure it's in the condition it was in when you put it under contract.
Right.
A lot of people misunderstand. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but a lot of people misunderstand and think that when I do my walkthrough, the home has to be vacant, the home has to be perfectly cleaned and ready for me to move in, and really it only has to be in the condition it was in at the time that you put it under contract. That's
right, minus normal wear and tear. So when you do a walkthrough, there may still be furniture in there. That's the sellers. Is they're still moving out. It's still their house. They get to do what they want with it. And sometimes beds get moved, and maybe we find an old Frosty that got spilled in a kid's bed, and it gets on the carpet and stuff. And those are unfortunate surprises, but those things do happen.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be vacant, and people may be moving boxes out and may be moving out. Right. But if you're buying from abroad or buying at all, I think the final walkthrough for me is an important step to try to make sure that you're there, because you can do that for people, but you're also not them, and you can't substitute your judgment. And so there are all kinds of buyers. There are people that get bothered by small things in a transaction that you and I have bought and sold enough homes that we know, replacing a leaky faucet's no big deal. But to some buyers, that might be really, really unacceptable.
A really big deal.
A really big deal. And so, even you can't substitute your judgment for the judgment of the buyer. So I think it's a good idea to be.
Oh, it is. It's a good idea
final walk.
To be there, or I'd go shoot a video for you or whatever, or your agent can, whoever that is, to take a look at it and make sure that it meets your approval.
So am I missing anything?
Not that I can think of.
The other thing that we like to do is we have a little guide to Austin, an insider's guide to Austin, of what we as locals and natives have.
Well, I got here at 3.
I think that counts. Of things that we suggest that you go do for fun. So if you find yourself in town, like, get out and experience the city. Go try some of our favorite restaurants. They may not be the most highly rated. They may not be the most hottest, newest thing, which you could certainly go do that. But we're going to give you more of the,
I don't like the hot new things as much.
I know, we're creatures of habit.
Yeah.
So anyway, we have that. We have this little cheat sheet that we share with our buyers that are coming in. from out of town or out of state, and gives them, to give them a little peek about things that you can do, where to go get ice cream, fun things to do with your kids, what restaurants to try, those kinds of things. So we try to make it a fun experience. Sometimes, it just really depends on what you're bringing to the table, and we try to make it fun for everybody involved.
We try to welcome people.
Because we want it to be fun. You're buying a house. It should be exciting.
You're not buying a stick of gum. You're buying a house. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
You should come and have a good time and celebrate that.
That's for sure. So that's it. If you guys have any comments or questions, we're always eager to answer those. So you can either write to Paul directly, or you can leave
call me.
Call in, or you can
call me is good.
Leave a comment in the remarks. My question for you is, we've been toying with the idea of changing the schedule for Calls with Paul.
Really? Are we moving it to Mondays?
No, we're toying with doing it twice a month instead of every week.
Oh.
Mostly because it's hard. It's hard for me to every Wednesday we're writing content and figuring out what we're going to talk about. And so I'm just kind of wondering if you guys have opinions either way. We've been interested. We want it to be of value. We want it to be beneficial. So if you have an opinion one way or the other, I have to have Calls with Paul every Wednesday at 12, let us know.
Or maybe it could be on Mondays. Or not. Or whenever you
says the man who doesn't realize I have to prep this the night before, which means kids and bath and school. It's crazy. So thank you. That's it for episode 16. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, guys. Adios.
Adios.
You think people know?